shake a tail fin. A bikini babe, catching a road wave. A big surprise, I'm gonna rise and flash my tooth cane. All the buff dudes, safe on the beach food. They're gonna need a bigger boat and barrels real soon. I'm a sea king, a CGI thing. I'm here to eat and bare my teeth and shake a tail fin. I'm only taking a ride. Lured in by your bucket and shove. It's one weakness I can't hide. Take me to your bucket and shove.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bucket of Chum, the Shark Movie Podcast. As always, I am your host, Captain Steve. This week, we're talking about 2024's No Way Up, directed by Claudio Fa, or Claudio Fay. I don't know how to pronounce his name. This seems to be a running theme with movies recently where I can't pronounce like the director's name and whatnot. Just over on Patreon for the Bermuda Depths episode, I could not pronounce the director's actual name. But anyways, that's nonsense. We're here to talk about No Way Up 2024. So this just came out on demand probably a week or two ago as I'm recording this. So I thought this would be a good one to check out. It's not too often I get to check out new movies on the podcast because I usually plan ahead and I don't usually have space for them. But yeah, I had space for this one, and so I thought it'd be a good time to review it. Let's get into the plot synopsis right away. Characters from different backgrounds are thrown together when the plane they're traveling on crashes into the Pacific Ocean. A nightmare fight for survival ensues, the air supply running out and dangers creeping in from all sides. The way they describe, people from different backgrounds getting together, I'm like, that's typically how fucking planes work. It's full of different people, but that's just a minor thing. It's fine. I'm okay with that. It has an average rating of 2.1 stars on Letterboxd, which is a little low from what I'm expecting from this movie, I have to say. But it is still a fairly new movie, so I know this will fluctuate quite a bit, because I know when I did Deep Fear, the rating that I said on the episode is not what the rating is anymore. It's changed since then. So I'm expecting this one to change for good or bad. I don't know. We'll have to decide that soon. But for a newer movie and bigger budget, I was expecting it to have a higher score. And based off like the poster expectations I have and based off the plot, I'm expecting underwater mayhem, lots of sharks. It's a nice looking poster, very professional looking, so some Hollywood shit. I want to see some Hollywood shit. I want to see that money put to good fucking use. I guess at this point there's no way up or out, so let's dive in. The opening credits are pretty fucking cool for this movie. It's just a lot of underwater shots and like underneath waves, and like it's a little bit artsy, very moody and dark. It's hard to explain, but like so far this cinematography is gorgeous. So if they can keep this up, I will be very happy. But during the end of the credits, we see a woman fall into the water and she's sinking. She opens her eyes and screams. A little bit of blood comes out, and we're in a dream. This man wakes up Brandon, who is played by Colm Meaney, who played Lieutenant O'Brien in Star Trek The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. I didn't look it up because I was just so confident in that. So if I'm wrong, somebody tell me. But I'm pretty sure that's who it is. So he wakes up and he gets ready inside of his mobile home. He's on the outskirts of like Los Angeles or something like that. As he grabs his keys to leave, we can see in his closet he has like a military outfit. So right away, I'm expecting to see this guy kick some shark ass, like use that military shit to good use. That's what I want to see. And then when he leaves, Bad Religion, Los Angeles is Burning starts playing on the radio and over top of what's going on. And I could not be fucking happy right now. I love Bad Religion, and I fucking love that song. So Steve is a very happy boy right now. Very happy. He's got sharks. He's got Bad Religion. He's got a Star Trek dude. I'm a very happy boy. Very happy. And so, yeah, we're in LA, and we go to the airport where we see two college-age looking dudes named Jed and Kyle talking about girlfriends, blah, blah, blah. And then the girl that they're waiting for, Ava, walks in the door, and they're like, oh, well, and they say girls can't pack light. And then Brandon comes in behind her with a cart full of fucking luggage. Ha ha ha, jokes, everybody. We learn here Brandon is Ava's bodyguard, and her father is very protective of her, I guess. So, like, he invited the bodyguard on her vacation. Super weird. At first, I thought it was super weird. It makes a little bit more sense as we go on a bit. And Jed is her boyfriend, as I just said. He clearly is not fond of this. So while they argue off in the background, Kyle is talking to Brandon, and he's like, "Oh, do you come in here and like assess the situation? You know, is anyone like a terrorist threat?" And then Brandon just sits there with fucking glasses on, and he's like, "Oh, you mean like the guy with the long hair? No, he's a pacifist musician. Oh, you mean the two guys that just came in with neck tattoos? Executives. Look at their soft hands." So obviously this guy is good at whatever he does, whatever he did in the military. He's very observant. So again, I want to see those fucking skills put to use. Don't fuck me on this. Then we meet an older couple with their granddaughter, and the granddad is a veteran, as we can see by his hat. So these, like, both of these dudes better have Navy SEAL fights with the sharks whenever they show up. Then we kind of go around and we get some backstory on characters, and Ava is the governor's daughter, which is why she has a bodyguard, so that kind of makes sense. A little bit weird. He wanted him to go on vacation with her, but at the same time, not that weird. It's not as weird as if he was just like a really protective father and then just randomly hired a bodyguard. It makes sense. He's the governor. It's the U.S. They're going to Cabo. It lines up for me. I'm not saying it's not fucking weird. I wouldn't want to go on a vacation like that, probably, but still, it's not as weird as it could have been. And the older couple that we met just a little bit ago with the granddaughter, they split up, and then granddad walks with the granddaughter, and the bear she had in her knapsack falls out, and they focus on this for a bit. Ava sees it later on when she's walking by, but doesn't pick it up or anything. She kind of just ignores it. So I'm like, why are we on this bear? Is this a bear shark movie? Hollywood, bear shark, make it now. And then Ava notices the bear is missing, so she runs off. Sorry, not Ava. The little girl, Rosa, notices the bear is missing, so she runs off, but she runs into Ava, spilling coffee all over her shawl. And Ava's like, "You ruined my shawl, you little girl, blah." But then she comes back like 2 seconds later with the bear and gives it to Rosa, and she apologizes and says like, "Oh, I'm not a morning person," and blah, 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 whatever. Brandon talks with Ava as she walks over to him and asks if she really needs him in Cabo because she's a big girl, and we learn the woman that he's having nightmares about was her mother, and he feels like he could have saved her if he had been there, but he wasn't around, so he couldn't save her, I guess, and he feels very guilty about that and responsible for her death. He asks Ava if she would feel more comfortable with him staying, and then she like just has to say so, and she kind of smiles, and so he sits back down. So Ava actually wants him to be there as well. She feels safer with him, and it feels like they have a very like father-daughter relationship, which isn't surprising because I mean, if he's a governor or a politician, she's probably spent more time with this bodyguard dude than her own dad, which is kind of fucked up. He's kind of a cool bodyguard so far, though. He's kind of badass, so see some fucking shark kicking ass soon. Yeah. People start boarding the plane, and as they are, I spotted some old dude with an oxygen tank, and I'm like, I swear to fucking God, if somebody uses this as a scuba tank in this movie, I'm done. I'm writing this whole fucking movie off. I will put up with a certain amount of shenanigans, but when the movie looks this good and looks like it has this much of a budget, I don't want to see that shit. This isn't the Meg or the Meg 3 or any of that shit. Just use it for something else, okay? Whew. It's already getting fucking heated in here. We're about 15 minutes in at this point, and we've learned a lot about these characters. They have done a really good job setting up who these characters are, how they interact with each other, a lot with just simple visuals and conversations that don't feel forced or super ridiculous. I have to mention Madame Web. I know this is a big thing on the internet right now. Everyone's like hating on this movie, and it deserves every amount of hate it gets. The dialogue in this movie is so like, oh, I need the studio executives to understand what's happening. And then they just assume audiences are fucking stupid and wouldn't be able to pick up on half this shit. Half the dialogue in that movie doesn't need to be said, because we could pick up on it from background stuff and they could be doing other things, exciting things, fucking anything. Oh my god. Okay. But what I'm trying to say is this movie doesn't do that. The writing is actually pretty fucking decent. So far, the acting's really good. And like I said, we're actually learning a lot about these characters just through very simple conversations and just like kind of stuff in the background that we see, which is awesome. I wish they could take some of this and apply it to some other movies. So if filmmakers, you're listening, like, I'm not a filmmaker and I shouldn't be telling people how to make movies. Just in some movies, like I said, like Madame Web, where it's just this exposition of fucking nonsense that I don't need. Like she's reading the book out loud and saying like, oh, my mother was researching spiders in the Amazon. Bitch, that was the beginning of the movie. We already saw that. We don't need to hear you talk out loud about it. You can just look at it and then have that realization. Ugh. God damn it. Why am I talking about that movie? This movie's way better. Yeah, spoiler alert, this movie is better than Madame Web. Spoilers. Oh, shocker. Anyways, Kyle orders a beer from one of the male flight attendants. Ava spills some of her food, and then he makes a backhanded comment to the attendant, like, oh, he's probably used to being on his knees. And, like, the flight attendant's gay. We do learn this later on, but it was pretty obvious at this point that he was gay. And so Ava kind of apologizes to him, and then as he hands Kyle the beer, he spills a bunch on his crotch, so it looks like he pissed himself, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Then as he walks away, he starts smiling, and I'm like, yeah, Kyle, you fucking deserve it. Kyle's already a dick. Like, just go chug a fucking Monster and punch a hole in the wall already. Like, I'm already done with your shit. Also, Brandon is in first class alone because as they were boarding the plane, Ava said, like, oh, the plane's half empty, so I'm just going to sit back with my friends. Which makes sense. I mean, it would be really awkward to have, like, your friends on vacation with you and then not sit with them and just sit with your bodyguard. That's a little strange, especially on a plane. Like, I feel like when you're on the plane, you're a little bit safer-ish. But anyways, that's pointless. That's nothing. The plane starts going through some turbulence, and Kyle is just kind of getting Ava more worried, saying like, oh, yeah, look at the wings. They're, like, super thin, and this plane is so old. That's why it's half empty. And, like, again, just being a total fucking asshole. Like, she's clearly fucking scared, and, like, this is not the time for it, dude. And then on the PA system, we can hear the captain say, like, oh, we hit some birds, but everything is okay. But then we see the flight attendant start going up and down the aisles and closing all the overhead compartments, saying, oh, yeah, we're going to be fine. Out the window, Ava can see, like, some black smoke, and it looks like the plane is losing altitude. The little girl looks out the window and sees one of the engines catching fire and falling apart. And then a piece of the engine flies off into the side of the plane. There's, like, this moment of silence before a big hole just rushes all the air out of the plane, sucking people out like fucking crazy. This was actually done pretty well. All the CGI and everything was pretty good. People's reactions were great. So far, it's looking really good. I'm a little impressed. I'm not used to this. I don't even know what to do with this. Like, yeah, it looks fucking great. God damn. People are getting sucked out of the plane because they didn't put their fucking seatbelts on when the seatbelt light came on. So let this be a word of warning. Put your fucking seatbelts on when they put the light on. I've never been flying, but if that fucking seatbelt light goes on, I'm strapping the fuck in. I will bring extra straps with me, just in case. And as people are getting sucked out, Brandon is trying to grab people and save them, but ultimately he fails. The plane finally slams into the water. Brandon is hitting the, like, shoulder or chest area with a piece of metal. Some of the seats start crunching up like an accordion, and we just see people getting squished and, like, kind of blood just dripping. I will say this isn't a very gory movie. It definitely feels probably more PG-13, but the way that they go around some of the violence and potential gore was okay. It was actually pretty decent. Again, maybe I've just been watching so many shitty movies lately that, like, this just seems like a masterpiece to me. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this movie sucks. I don't know. But, I mean, so far it's pretty good. So far. We're about, like, 25 minutes in at this point, and I'm still enjoying it. I'm liking it so far. The plane stops, and it then starts sinking. Kyle's arm is broken. Oh no. The plane finally hits bottom, and of course, it's on the edge of a drop off to build up some extra tension. And again, as I said, so far the CGI pretty top notch. When the plane is sinking in and it hits the ledge and everything, I'm assuming that's like all 100% CGI. Like they didn't do anything practical, and it looks good. It looks very realistic. We're with Ava and her friends and the gay flight attendant, and they're basically alone at the back of this plane. And then they hear a noise like thudding, and Ava calls out for Brandon, and he surfaces with the little girl and Nana. And Nana is unresponsive, so the flight attendant, Danilo, starts CPR, and after a while, Nana spits up water and is alive. Woo! Yay for Nana. After Nana is awake for a bit, the little girl asks about Grandpa, and Brandon tells him that he's dead. And then Brandon starts taking control of the situation, like right away. He asks Ava to watch the water level, and if anyone gets drowsy, they maybe, it's a sign that they're low on oxygen. So Brandon is in, like, fully army bodyguard protector mode. No dilly-dally, no wasting any fucking time, and he's still bleeding. My man. Like, he's just sitting there bleeding and taking control of the situation. Finally. He also basically tells Jed and Kyle to stop being pussies. He's like, yeah, nobody ever died from a broken arm. And then he's like, the other guy was like crying or whining or something. And he basically like tells him to suck it up. I mean, fair. It's fair. Brandon assures them that help will be on the way, and not to worry. And they can get some spare oxygen tanks. But the other flight attendant didn't check the oxygen tanks because I guess in the galley or whatever, they have a couple of just spare oxygen tanks. The other flight attendant didn't check them, so they're fucking empty, so they're useless. At least they're not going to be scuba diving with it. I'll give them that. And this is where that medical oxygen tank from earlier comes in. Nana says, oh, the passenger across from me had a medical or oxygen tank. So Brandon gets ready to go underwater and get the tank. And then Nana asks if he can bring her husband's hat if he sees it. Brandon turns around and says, are you fucking for real, lady? And then he tells Kyle, yeah, I'll fix that arm when I get back. And then he dives down. Like, holy fuck, dude. I mean, there's not really a reason to be that mad at Nana. You could just, like, nod your head. You could have just, like, nod. That's it. That's all you had to do. You didn't have to be like, go fuck yourself, lady. I'm not grabbing your husband's fucking hat. Fuck him. Like, it's also kind of weird, too, because maybe he hadn't seen him yet, because, like, the old dude is a veteran. So you would think that Brandon would be a little bit more sympathetic to this, maybe. But anyways, he dives down, and we see dead bodies strapped into the seat, and then we see the big hole at the side of the plane. He comes across the granddad, and he does grab the hat. And as he's trying to come back, a shark comes in through the opening without fucking warning, just out of nowhere, and attacks him. Now, I assume most of this was CGI. I don't know if they had something practical for a quick second. It happens pretty fast, and the cuts are quick, a lot of close-ups, that sort of thing. Except it's done a little bit more well than I've seen it in other movies. And I mean, the fact that I'm questioning whether it was CGI or practical kind of tells me that this design is good. The CGI is pretty decent if it is CGI. Again, it has to be CGI. There's no way that they had a practical shark moving like this. So, yeah, let's just hope they keep that shit up. So far, so good. He manages to get away and brings the tank to everyone and tells Ava to stay back. And as he hands them the tank, we see a big wound in his side from the shark, and he is just bleeding out. He throws the hat to Nana and says he's sorry to Ava, and she's going to have to do this one without him. And then he's pulled away. So the shark's got him. I legit thought this dude was going to make it to the end of the movie. I was very surprised at this death. I didn't see it coming. I thought he would just, like, fucking stitch himself up, do some badass army shit, but nope, he is fucking dead. Yeah, very surprised by that. Nana asks if that was a shark, and Kyle asks, what's a shark doing on the plane? Like, dude, he bought his fucking ticket. Leave him. Oh, wait, no, he didn't buy a ticket. Yeah, what the fuck is a shark doing on the plane? God damn it. All right, Kyle, I'm going to give you this one. What is this shark underwater doing on this plane? Oh, Better go and ask him, see what he has to say about all this. So they all move further back on the plane, and Nana starts helping Kyle, and she sets his fucking arm, and we hear it crack, and god damn, made me fucking squirm. But also fuck Kyle. He deserves that pain, so screw him. On the surface, we see a helicopter, and we overhear the governor is making this a top priority because his daughter was a passenger on that flight. So, it pays to be rich and connected to politicians because you might get rescued faster. That's what this movie taught me. There should be 4 helicopters on the way, and then we go back down below, and as they wait, the plane starts buckling and tipping a bit more over the edge, and then we learn that Nana is a fucking veteran herself. She was an army nurse, and she served in Iraq, which is how she met her husband. And we heard earlier that he can't go through metal detectors because of shrapnel in his ass. So they met in Iraq because he had shrapnel in his ass. That is just a gorgeous love story. I love this. But also, Nana is fucking badass. Oh man, she better live to the end. They look into the water, and we see it fill with blood, and they say the sharks are eating the dead bodies. And outside the window, we can see sharks circling around the outside of the plane. Ava suggests they have 3 or 4 more hours left as long as the structure holds up, and then the plane starts sinking deeper down the drop-off until the nose is just hanging off the side. So they decide they need to try and swim out the hole, and Ava says they need a distraction. The little girl suggests bubbles, and then Kyle is just kind of a dick about it, and she's like, well, I learned it in school that sharks don't like bubbles, and which is based in some reality. They mentioned that in Jaws 3, I'm pretty sure. So I think that is actually based in reality. Granted, at this point, they don't know how they would accomplish such a thing, but still, it's something. So again, fuck you, Kyle. They then remember some other people had checked in scuba gear, but Danilo says that the tanks would be empty because you can't check in filled scuba tanks, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. But they should have other equipment that they can use, like flippers, goggles, that sort of thing. So Ava excuses herself to the bathroom and then just breaks down crying. So we go back up to the surface, and the helicopter finally spots the debris field. The co-pilots talk to 2 divers in the back and say they have 15 minutes before they run out of fuel. So they dive down, and when we get a POV of one of the divers, we just see how murky and there's very little visibility, and it really set a very spooky tone. They did a really good job with this. And then the divers finally spot the plane, and they start swimming towards it. Back inside the plane, they look for stuff that they can use to get out, and Ava comforts the little girl so she won't be scared anymore and assures her that they're going to get out. And then she spots the divers outside the window, and everyone starts waving, and they're so happy. They're saved. This is it. Oh, man. I thought it was going to be more dangerous, but this is it, guys. They're finally saved. It's going to be okay. And then so the diver comes up to the window, and he's doing the A-OK thing. Yeah, you guys are going to be fine. We know where you are now. And then they see a shark behind him, and they're like, fucking turn around, buddy, behind you. And he's just like, what? And then finally he gets the idea to turn around. I don't know how he didn't pick up on this. They were using all the right hand signals. Granted, I know he probably can't hear them, but the hand signals, the panic, you would think he'd be like, oh, there might be something behind me. Maybe I should look behind me. But then by the time he looks behind him, there's nothing there. So then he again looks at the window, shrugs, does the A-OK thing, and then he's fucking pulled down and he disappears. And then after a few seconds, we just see his flipper with his leg still attached just sink past the window. Yeah, he did. So then they start wondering where the other diver is, but he's nowhere to be seen. And then back on the surface, the helicopter has to leave because they're running out of fuel, so they tell the other 4 choppers to come and get the divers. Ava suggests they use the oxygen tank from one of the divers, so her and Jed dive in and search for the tank, kind of cautiously. And then Ava thinks she spots something, so Jed is walking on top of the seats, and he's holding on to the luggage compartments, but then he slips and splashes into the water. And then as he's coming back there, he's like, haha, I fell in the water, what fun. A shark comes up behind him and starts biting on him and chomping on him. So they start grabbing him to pull him forward, and they finally break him free, but we can see that part of his leg has been bitten off. Ha, not so fucking funny now, eh? Falling in the water. We're all having fun. Ah, god damn it. But immediately, Nana starts patching him up right fucking away, like fucking army nurse Nana, let's go. Jed says he can't feel his foot, and Nana's like, Jed, you've lost your leg below the knee. And he's like, well, there goes my triathlon. And then Kyle chimes in with like, yeah, but at least now you'll make your weight limit. Ha ha ha. Oh, what fun it is to be dying. Nana also tells Jed she's seen worse in Iraq, so he has a chance that he might live, maybe. Danilo then shows them the hatch for the cargo hold, and Ava grabs a flare and heads in. So she's in the cargo hold, and it's completely submerged underwater, and she only has a flare to see around. So she finds the bag from the divers that they saw checking in, but then she loses her flare when an octopus scares the shit out of her. But she manages to get back, and she gets the bag back. And they realize there's only 4 wetsuits, and Kyle comments, like, Jed isn't going to make it. And Jed is looking pretty pale at this point. And while everyone else looks out the windows for more divers, Nana checks Jed's pulse, but he's gone. And she tells Ava, and then Ava tries to perform CPR on him, but, like, it's useless. Like, he's dead. Jed is dead. Ava is sad as she mentions her mom, Brandon, Jed, and she has no one left. I mean, her dad is still alive, but I guess obviously they don't get along very well, I'm assuming. So, of course, the plane starts slipping down a little bit further, and then at this point, the nose of the plane is starting to break off from the rest of the plane and just starting to go off the edge. And Ava notices the water rising much faster and tells everyone they need to get out of there fast. Kyle says they're fish food, and Ava says they'll do the bubbles thing that the little girl suggested. So what they're actually going to do is the little tanks that inflate the inflatable life jackets that they have, they're going to use a bunch of those to like try to fend off the sharks. I don't know if this necessarily would work. I understand like the bubble thing. I don't know that those things would be useful. So it sounds a little silly, but at the same time, it seems to be based in some sort of reality. So I can suspend my disbelief a little bit for that. So I don't really have a huge problem with it. So Ava starts gathering more tanks and the plane starts buckling. She gets into a wetsuit and the little girl gets into one as well. Nana says she doesn't need one because she used to be like a fucking swimmer when she was 16 or something. Fucking Nana's not going to make it out alive. If she's not taking a wetsuit, she's not making it out alive. Danilo helps Kyle into his wetsuit, and these two kind of bond a little bit, like kind of making up for earlier, which was nice to see. Just nice to see Kyle trying not to be a dick for 5 seconds. Good for you, Kyle. I'm glad you've grown as a human being. Ava says goodbye to Jed, and they start getting ready to dive down, but the plane is, like, slipping off the edge. And then the nose of the plane finally breaks off. Ava starts going through the plan, and they're going to get the scuba tanks, and once they leave the plane, pull the cords on their life jackets to help them rise up. The little girl will get one. I don't know if it's like I don't think it's one oxygen tank. I think it's like a regulator. So the little girl gets a regulator to herself, and then, like, the rest of them will just kind of share as they're rising to the surface. Nana asks Ava to take care of Rosa, the little girl. Oh, man, she's so dead. Nana's dead. God damn. The plane starts buckling again. Water is sprinkling in. So they head for the hole in the side of the plane. Ava grabs Rosa, and Nana says goodbye and that she's really proud of her and all of that. So these two make their way through the plane. They come across the shark and do the bubbles thing, and it works, I think. Ava, like, holds the thing in front of her mask and, like, waves it around. And so, like, our view of the shark is completely obstructed, and then when she moves it, the shark's gone. So I guess it worked. Again, I don't think this is exactly how it would work. But at the end of the day, I'm willing to accept it. I am okay with this. It's not great. They could have done something a little bit different, but I'm okay with it. I will let this one slide. Danilo and Kyle then dive down. Nana stays behind, knowing that she can't make it, and clutches onto her husband's hat and asks him to look after Rosa, and the rest of the plane finally floods. And Kyle looks behind him and sees the plane is flooded. And so he finds a little air pocket, and then he says, like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then a shark comes up from behind him, attacks him, just chomping into his side. Again, they don't focus on it a lot, but, like, when they do and you see it, like, it's pretty fucking aggressive. So some of the cuts were, like, pretty good. Like, they're quick, but we get a really good sense of what's happening and how these attacks are going. So, yeah, Kyle's pretty fucked up. Danilo swims off, obviously, because there's no way he can fucking save Kyle, who is dead. Not that sad about it. Not really that sad that Kyle is dead, to be honest. Ava and Rose find the scuba tank next to a mangled diver, and they see Danilo, and Ava sort of gives a Kyle, like a where's Kyle look, and Danilo, like, shakes his head. Danilo and Rose get scuba tanks on, and then Ava and Danilo share the regulator, and then she pulls the life jacket, and Danilo and Rosa start rising to the surface. As Ava is about to pull hers, a shark comes into the plane and comes right up to her face and then just leaves her. Fucking why? The rest of this movie, the sharks have been going after dead people, anybody else who's gone in the water, but now that she's come face to face with one, it just leaves her alone. This is the part I had a problem with, because I don't fucking understand that. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. It goes against the rules that this movie has set out so far. And I feel like, again, with some of the last movies I've watched, they keep fucking doing this. You've set out what these sharks do and don't do, and now you're just like, nah. You could have had her fight the shark. You could have created something exciting. She could have killed the fucking shark with, like, a piece of the plane. There's literally 100 other things they could have fucking done for this. And instead they're just like, nah, the shark's going to be like, you know what? You're all right. Like, what the fuck, man? Ugh. Anyways, as the shark swims past her, its tail fin whips her goggles off, and then the plane starts falling off the edge, and she rushes to escape, and she tries to swim up to the surface, but the pressure of the plane, like, falling is, like, kind of sucking her down with it. It's also pulling her down. And she tries to surface, but she doesn't make it. And then she's just floating there, drowned. And so she surfaces, floating alone, and then she starts fucking breathing. And she's alive. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why she drowned and then suddenly came back to life. I don't know. I got nothing for that one, unfortunately. So she starts yelling for Rosa and Danilo, but she can't see them anywhere. And then we hear the helicopters come in, and there's like 4 of them, and one of them lowers a harness to bring her out of the water. And when she gets inside, Rosa and Danilo are inside. The pilot asks if there's anyone else, and Ava shakes her head. Rosa asks, where's Nana? And now she knows Nana is dead. Rosa says Grandpa said he wanted Mr. Tibbs, the teddy bear that she had, around if he was in trouble, and I don't need it anymore. So she tosses it into the water. Okay. The helicopters fly off and saying like, oh yeah, we found 3 survivors, blah, blah, blah. And we roll credits. Okay. I will start off with this. This was a damn fine movie. Is it a good shark movie? Sort of. I wouldn't say this is like full on like sharksploitation per se. It definitely is, but it kind of borders the line of being not. But the cinematography was really nice. The CGI was fucking gorgeous. It's like a better thriller than it is a shark movie. But I think they did a decent job of like kind of combining those two things together. As far as poster expectations, I mean, we got a bunch of sharks, the plane was sunk, the poster looked really good, and actually kind of, for me, matched what the cinematography was like in the film as well. So the poster actually really gives you a good sense of what this movie will look like, and a little bit of what it'll feel like. I felt like it was very good. If you have claustrophobia, maybe even a fear of planes or whatever, even fear of sharks, this movie will get you. They definitely do a good job at building up some tension. As I said, the acting was pretty spot on. I didn't have a problem with anybody in this movie acting wise. And as I said earlier, they did an amazing job setting up backstory and like who these characters are with very minimal dialogue. And they really do what they teach you in film school to show and not tell. If somebody could go to fucking Sony and like rewrite Madame Web and be like, hey, show, don't tell, maybe we would have had a better movie. But again, I'm not here to fucking talk about Madame Web. But it sucked. I'm glad I didn't pay for it. But No Way Up, I would recommend watching this, actually. If it's like $2.99 to rent or something where you are, I think it's available to rent on YouTube as well. I would say it's worth it. It's actually a good movie. I wouldn't say it's amazing. It's not my most favorite modern shark movie, but I will say I think I enjoyed this more than Deep Fear and probably a few other like more modern, bigger budget shark movies. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I originally had 3 stars. I think I'm gonna go 3.5. Now that I'm thinking about this movie, again, the ending was a little dumb. I kind of feel like maybe they just didn't know how to end it. It also could have been a budget thing. Maybe they just didn't have the budget for a final shark fight. So that kind of hinders the movie a little bit. But again, overall, really enjoyed it. So on Letterboxd, we're going with 3.5 stars. That was No Way Up from 2024. As always, you guys can follow me on all of the social medias. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Slasher, all at Bucket of Chum Podcast. If you're listening, please think about heading over to YouTube at Bucket of Chum Podcast, and watching and liking the video reviews. Subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Bucket of Chum. $2 a month, you're a catch tier. You get all kinds of great stuff, including an exclusive Patreon episode each month. And thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you guys next time for an all-new episode of Bucket of Chum.